Mirage might actually be one of the most powerful league mechanics we've had in a long time for Path of Exile, not only because of its own rewards, which potentially could end up giving you a lot of currency and a lot of great items through its chests that you can get and find, but also because of the way that it amplifies other league mechanics aside in your maps. From what the developers revealed and what we know from Mirage announcement, these astral copies of your maps can duplicate monsters, mechanics, and rewards, effectively turning a normal map into a massively juiced version of itself. And if that's the case, then some farming strategies could become extremely profitable very early in the league. So in this video, we're going to break down how Mirage actually works, which mechanics benefit the most, and what the best early farming strategies could be. Let's just talk about what is Mirage and what the actual mechanic is. During a map, you'll encounter necromancers draining the power of captured Jinn. Once you defeat them, a character named Barashta will open a portal into an astral realm called the Mirage. This Mirage is essentially an imperfect copy of your map, including monsters and any league mechanics that spawned nearby. It will also grant you 3 wishes before you actually enter the portal, which will modify the difficulty and rewards of the map in some sort of way. It can also gain you stuff like some crazy power-ups like Soul Eater and stuff where you can't even die, so that's going to be absolutely crazy. Inside the Mirage, you'll fight through monsters and hazards until you reach the chain binding Jinn. Breaking it completes the encounter and grants rewards. But here's the most important part: the Mirage inherits all map modifiers, Atlas passives, scarabs, basically everything that you have juicing your map will be within the Mirage, so it will scale with whatever farming strategies you're already using, essentially meaning that whenever you run anything within the map and you gain a Mirage near it, you're just getting like extra juiced mobs and bonuses straight up from it, and potentially increasing the amount of rewards you get really. So obviously the more juiced content you do, the more different sort of league mechanics you do, the more juiced the actual Mirage in itself will be essentially. So it's essentially like a reward multiplier in that sense. Now most league mechanics typically add something new to a map. Mirage instead not only adds something somewhat new, even though you're still getting a duplicate version of what's already there, but it also empowers everything else, and that means the strongest mechanics are going to get even stronger. For example, if a map contains ritual or abyss or harvest or any other league mechanics, it's going to be copied so you can actually do them twice and get extra rewards from those. So you can imagine if you go into a harvest, you've done it outside of the map, and then you get one in the Mirage, you're just going to get essentially double the amount of harvest juice that you're going to have. Let's just talk about some of the strategies that you could potentially do, especially early on, even though I'm sure there's going to be stuff people find that's going to be extremely overpowered and broken. These are some of the ones that I just came up with beforehand, but I'm guessing that during the league there will be others that might be discovered, and obviously a lot of discovery going around from players. For me, Ritual seems extremely strong in the Mirage. Obviously Ritual rewards scale based off the monster kills and the tribute generation, and if a Mirage is already going to duplicate those monsters and encounters, that means you could potentially generate much larger tribute pools. What does this mean for a ritual mechanic? It means that you're going to have more rerolls, you're going to have more reward choices, and higher chances for valuable items, and that's where your money is going to come from, right? So as long as you get that ritual within that Mirage, you're going to have a higher chance of getting these valuable items. You can reroll, and you don't need to always reroll or defer only the high ticket items. It can be just your regular sort of currency. So like say for example, you see chaos orbs, or you see exalted orbs, that sort of stuff, normal orbs, or even like really nice items in general. You can just defer those, and you can keep doing that and re-rolling until they become really cheap, and then just buy them out, right? Now Ritual is already a decent lead mechanic, especially early on, for currency and finding potentially like insane high value items such as your uniques or just random gear drops that it may drop, or synthesis items. But Mirage could possibly double its value per map. The second mechanic that you should consider is Abyss. Based on developer interviews and information that's been given to us, Abyss encounters inside a Mirage can create like large pits of monsters that will spawn continuously, kind of like how it does for POE 2's Abyss mechanic. And that means we're going to get a ton more monsters, a ton more rare mobs, and that means in general you're just going to get more experience, more item drops, more Abyss jewels, which who knows, maybe they're going to have some sort of special versions of them maybe. And obviously your Stygian bells, they're going to still sell for a lot. And in general, just having more monsters on your map and monster density is always one of the most important things when it comes to actually farming currency in Path of Exile. So if you're looking for a nice chill sort of mechanics that's just doubling your mobs in general and the mob density, and you like getting some monsters in general, this is going to be one of the best mechanics early on, at least for farming early currency and that sort of stuff. So do keep an eye out for that. And then one of the other mechanics I want to talk about is Harvest. Now, Harvest could scale very well with Mirage. Normally, Harvest is limited by how many plots spawn per map, but if Harvest appears inside of a Mirage copy, that means you get extra Harvest encounters, you get additional crafting options, and potentially new rewards tied to Mirage. And we know there's a new seed coming with the Harvest mechanic, and all the mechanics in general will have some sort of new reward structure around it or new reward item type. But I'm curious to see what those seeds do and how sort of they will affect the market, because obviously just the juice in itself and getting that extra or double or tripling the amount of juice that you get per map from Harvest is going to grant you a lot of currency if you just sell the juice on its own. But it's going to be interesting to see what seed does and how much it's going to affect the market. Next, let's talk about fully miraged maps. Now, to me, this is one of the most interesting mechanics mentioned in the whole sort of league announcement. Essentially, these are special maps where the entire area exists inside a Mirage. Instead of just a small section being copied, the entire map is duplicated. Now, you can imagine what that means for the mechanics that are in there, right? So the more mechanics that you get stacked, so if I get a Harvest, a Ritual, a Base, maybe I use Scarabs to guarantee those dropping, I'm going to get all of those Mirage version of those mechanics in one map. So that could be insane in terms of like how much items you gain, the mob density, the sort of juice from Harvest that you get, the amount of tribute that you're going to get from Ritual itself, as well as you granting you those wishes on top. Who knows, some of the rewards we haven't actually seen everything yet, so they could be insane as well. And from what we hear, these are going to be somewhat common. We don't know the exact rarity of these fully miraged maps, but they could become one of the more powerful juicy mechanics in the league. And especially if you have an astral area where you're running that map on a fully miraged map, you can imagine that you're just double dipping on all those extra multipliers from those league mechanics. So for example, if I was doing Harvest in a fully miraged map on a shaped area with an astral robe of a Harvest on top of it, you're going to be getting even more juice than you were getting before, and you're already going to be getting quite a lot from these miraged Harvest map areas, right? So that's going to be absolutely crazy, and you can apply that to like any league mechanic. So you're effectively going to run like 2 full maps worth of content at once. And then on top of that, for those maps, you're also going to have like random bosses spawning, right? So you're going to have stuff like they've mentioned Cyrus can spawn randomly in your map, and he's going to have his normal loot table. So you could potentially get extra loot just from killing those bosses, and you don't even need fragments to run those bosses, right? They'll just be in your map. You don't even need the fragments. You'll kill them. They'll drop whatever they normally drop from a normal version of that boss. And then you also still have all the other league mechanics. But that boss is also used by your astrolabe area if you do have one on the Atlas passive going on for that map. They've also mentioned that there's going to be fiat bosses that can spawn inside the Mirage versions of those encounters. So you can imagine again so much stuff is going to be happening in that Mirage map. It's going to be absolutely hectic and crazy. And if you love sort of mob density and just a crap ton of loot dropping, and obviously this is going to be something that you're going to really enjoy, hopefully. So it kind of brings out the whole package, right? It gives you all your juice and extra juice from league mechanics, as well as granting some specialized rewards from those league mechanics. Like stuff they've shown is like the ultimatum rewards that you can get that buff the suffix or prefix modifiers, as well as the tribute that you're going to get from Ritual, as well as the harvest that you can get and the extra harvest that you can get, and the seeds on top of that. But also it's going to be like a really nice boss farming strategy, right? So it's going to be like, yeah, it's going to be RNG which bosses are going to spawn where, but at least it saves you from getting all the fragments to run those bosses in the first place. So could end up being a really nice boss farming strategy also. Going to be absolutely insane. That's the one I can't wait for. So if we just combine everything that we know so far, Mirage looks less like a standalone mechanic and more like a multiplayer system. The best strategies will probably involve stuff that gives you high monster density, mechanics that scale with kills, mechanics that scale with reward. And this is stuff like your ritual, your base, your harvest, and obviously the bosses that spawn on top of that. So this could end up being the strongest Mirage from strategies in the league. Obviously we'll have to wait and see, but my early prediction are especially those 3 league mechanics are going to work extremely well with Mirage and work very nice with it. Overall, my thoughts on this is the Mirage mechanic look like a mechanic that can reshape farming strategies quite a bit, especially since the past few leagues it's been a bit stale and the endgame hasn't really changed too much. So that'd be in itself very nice to see. And instead of focusing on one mechanic per map, the goal might be to end up stacking multiple mechanics, right? So you just want to get a base, you want to throw your ritual, you want to throw your harvest in there, make sure they're all guaranteed to spawn in there, run a fully miraged map, and then get all that loot from all those mechanics on top of additional multipliers that you're going to be able to get from your scarabs and your astral apes and that sort of stuff. But of course, this is still early information and the real meta will possibly evolve once the league actually launches. This is just from what we know so far, but these strategies will end up working at least early game. It might not end up being the best overall in the end. We'll have to wait and see what players discover and come up with and what other hidden secrets and discoveries we haven't been told. Let me know what you guys think below. What are you guys going to be farming? What are you most excited for about the league? And yeah, thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe and like the video.